In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this tic-tac-toe game. Okay, so welcome to another session of In the Lab with me, Becky. So I'm going to show you how you can use the free clipart that comes with your software to create your tic-tac-toe design. Now the project is a two-parter, so we're going to be looking at using sheets to work with two different materials to cut them out. We're going to be using 3 tools in total: an end mill to create pockets for channels, to hide away your marbles, for the profiles as well to cut the parts out. We're going to be looking at a round ball nose tool to create little divots for the actual game pad itself, where you can pop your marbles into position for the game. We're also going to look at how we can use a V-bit tool just on a basic profile toolpath in order for us to get our little crosshatch for the actual game itself. We've got some magnets in place that are just going to hold everything together. So I think we should take a look at how we design this in the software. So we're in VCarve desktop. Let's go and create a new file. So here I'm going to work with a job that's 7 by 7 by 1 inch thick. We're going to set our XY in the lower left hand corner and then hit that OK button. So we're going to start by creating our layout for the actual game design. Now in your clipart tab, not sure how aware you are of this, but we have a folder called 2D game layouts, and here we've got access to 6 different game layouts where the vectors have already been drawn up for you, and it's just a case of you taking them into your job, use them as they are, or personalize them. That's what we're going to do today. So we're going to look at the tic-tac-toe game. Now to bring that into my job, I simply double click on that and it'll bring that in there for me. Okay, so we've got a nice layout here. We've got the words tic-tac-toe if we wanted to use them. But I'm actually going to take that out. So I'm going to take it, delete it, and I'm also going to delete out the square as well. I'm then going to select all of the vectors and then I'm going to press F9 on the keyboard to center them to my workspace. Okay, so for my tic-tac-toe game, I'm actually going to use marbles for the like the game pieces. Now you could use dowels or counters, whatever it is, but obviously you're going to have to think about your counter spaces. So in this case, as I am using marbles, I'm going to look at the diameter of a marble. Now one marble for me is 0.622 in diameter. And I want the marbles to just actually rest nicely on our game board. So I don't want them to be the exact same size, I just want them a little bit smaller so that they can rest in a kind of curved pocket, which will pocket out using a ball nose tool. So based on that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ungroup these vectors onto their layer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into the set selected object size. We're going to look at using this option here to scale items individually, and that will scale each individual circle on an individual basis rather than as a group selection as they currently are. So we're going to go into this option here. We can see each one of those circles is currently at 1/4 of an inch. Now one of my marbles is 0.622, so I just want to make a circle a little bit smaller than that. So I'm going to go with 0.57 in this case. Go ahead and press apply and you can see it's changed that there for me. And then I can close out and then click just to accept that. Next up, we're going to draw a series of circles where we're going to offset them in order for us to create our game layout. So I'm going to start by going into the draw circle tool. I'm going to set my center point at x3.5, y3.5, which is in our center of our job there. We're going to go with a diameter 4 inches, press create and close out. So our main gameplay will take place within this circle. Following that, I'm going to take this circle, we're going to offset it outwards in order for us to create a recess. And then within that recess, we're going to look at creating a trough where our marbles are going to be sat inside in order for us to have them there for gameplay. Also, it acts as a real good storage solution for when we're not playing the game as well. So with that vector selected, we're going to go into our offset tool. Okay, I'm going to offset this outwards by 0.561. So it might appear like a random number, but this is kind of what worked in terms of how I laid it out. So let's just go with this for now. So we're going to offset that outwards by 0.561. So we're going to offset that out, and then we're going to offset that one out again, like so. And how it's doing that is because I've got select new checked here. And then finally, I'm going to do one further offset, which is a very small 0.05, offset that out, and this will become more apparent why we're doing that when we come to do the toolpaths, but we won't talk about that just yet. Right then, so we're going to close out here. So now we're going to look at creating a trough that's going to house our marbles on the top and on the bottom of our game board. So I'm going to go in and we're going to look at drawing a circle. So I mentioned earlier that our marble diameter is 0.622. Now I want my trough to be a little bit bigger than that to ensure that my marble fits in nicely. So I'm going to actually go with a diameter of 0.7 in this case, and then we'll go ahead and just create that like so. Okay, so there's one marble there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this circle. So this circle represents the kind of central like reservation of where my trough is going to be positioned. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into node edit mode by pressing N on the keyboard, and I'm just going to cut that vector there, and I'm going to right click and cut this vector here. So when we come out using the right click options, you can see now we've got two separate vectors. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this marble, I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm going to select this vector here. Then I'm going to use this option to copy vectors along the vector. So we're copying this vector along this vector, whereby I'm going to specify a distance of 1 inch in between the copies. And I'm going to go ahead and press copy, and you can see it's done that there. Then I'm going to do the same again, so select this vector, shift and select this vector, and go ahead and press copy, close out. So we would have had a few duplicates here, so I'm just going to delete that, and we've just got one there, and then we're just going to delete that, so we've got one there. And the reason I've done it this way is because I wanted the center marble to always stay in this place, which is why I cut the vector at this point here and this point here. Now you only need 5 counters, so I'm going to just keep these 5 here and then these 5 along the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to box select those 3, delete them, and then I'm going to select these 3 and delete them. So I've got 5 there, 5 there. Obviously there's going to be a nice big gap in between so they can roll around, and this is going to form the trough here. So next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this vector here and then shift and select this vector here. We're actually going to join them again. So just going to join them like so, close out, and there we should have a full circle there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset it outwards and inwards by the radius of the circle that we've just created. So with that vector selected, let's go over to the offset tool. We're going to offset that one outwards by 0.35, and then we'll go ahead and go offset outwards. And then we're going to take this one and we're going to go offset inwards like so, close out. Happy with that. Next up, I'm going to delete this one, and this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then over here, I'm going to go into node edit mode, and I'm just going to delete this span here and that span there. So I'm just using the keyboard shortcut D for delete. I'm going to go up here, delete that one, here, delete that one, and then into my scissor tool, I'm going to get rid of those, like so, close out, and there are my troughs. Okay, so I've got my troughs in place. Some 5 marbles can fit in there, they're going to roll around, but we should have the perfect fit there. So hopefully you've seen in the intro how this game is going to work. So we're going to have one piece of material that's going to represent the whole base and the trough and the actual gameplay, and then we've got another piece of material that represents a ring that essentially closes off the trough in order for us to hide away our marbles. For example, if you just want to keep them safe, or you're in transport, whatever that is. And so in order for us to kind of close them off together, I wanted to include magnets here. So we're going to look at applying a magnet position on the left and on the right hand side of our ring. So we're going to use the draw circle tool in order for us to create our the diameter of the circle that represents our magnet, in which case I've measured my magnet and it's come up as 0.375 in diameter. Obviously, if it's different for yours, you will need to change this value, in which case I'm going to snap to this point here and click there, snap to this point here and click there, and there are my magnet positions. Okay, so we're pretty much done with this sheet. So what we can do now is we can set up a new sheet by going into the Sheets tab. We're going to use the Add New option, and then over here we're just going to alter the X, Y, Z options here by using the Edit. So here I'm actually going with the same width and height, 7 and 7. However, my thickness is a little bit smaller this time. So this one is 0.75, and we could go ahead and press OK there. Right then, so let's go back to our drawing tab, and I'm just going to double click to go back into our original sheet here. So the elements that I need to copy over to our other sheet is this vector here, the outer ring, the trough, the other trough, and the 2 magnet positions. We're going to right click and say copy to sheet, which is just out of reach there, so let me just do that over here so you can see that. Okay, so copy to sheet, sheet 2, and you can see it's been copied over there, and I'm going to double click over here, and for good measure I'm actually going to flip this horizontally, so I'm going to press H on the keyboard so I know that this is the mirrored version, as that's going to sit on top of this. Now everything was done in terms of symmetry, so it should be okay anyway, but for good measure make sure that we mirror that to ensure that this magnet, you know, latches onto this magnet, this trough latches onto this trough here, that edge of the trough latches onto that one, and so on. Right, and so now we're at a stage where we're actually ready to create some toolpaths. So we're going to jump back into sheet 1, and then what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to our toolpaths tab. So as always, you want to ensure that your material setup is safe and appropriate for your particular machine, the materials and tools that you're using. Okay, so I'm happy with mine. Now the first toolpath we're going to look at is going to be a profile toolpath. We're going to apply profile toolpath on the game board here. So we're going to look at using a V-bit tool. We're going to use the profile on option to create a nice set of lines for us using that V-bit tool. So we're going to go into the profile toolpath. Okay, so we're going to specify a cut depth, very small, 0.05, using a 60-degree 1/4 inch V-bit, where we're going to machine on those vectors. We're just going to call this one profile V-bit, and then go ahead and press calculate, and then we can preview that, and it should look something like this, which looks good. Let's just go ahead and tile our windows. Okay, so next up we're going to look at closing out of the preview toolpath form. So now we're going to select all of our circles, and we're going to look at creating a pocket toolpath. So we're going to select them. So at the moment they're not grouped, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all of these and then just individually deselect the lines as I don't need them, and then I'm going to press G just to group them. It just ensures that it's just easier for me to select one of those. Right then, so we're going to go into the pocket toolpath. Okay, so here we're going to go with a cut depth of 0.1, and then we're going to just remove that tool. I'm going to select to open up our tool database. I'm actually going to use a 1/4 inch ball nose here. I'm going to select that, and then what we can do is we can go down and then go ahead and give that a name. So I'm just going to call this one Pocket Marbles, and then we'll go ahead and press calculate, and then preview that, and we can see what that looks like. So just creating a little bit of a recess here with a nice rounded edge. Now marbles should be able to sit nicely in those recesses. Okay, so it'll close out there. Next up, we're going to take this vector here and then the very outer vector here, and we're going to run a pocket toolpath to create a kind of step down. So with those vectors, let's go into the pocket toolpath. we're going to set our start depth of 0, and then our cut depth is going to be 0.4. Let's just remove that tool. We'll use the select option to open up the tool database, and we're going to use a 1/4 inch end mill there, and then we're going to do that in an offset strategy, and we can just call this one pocket recess, and then go ahead and press calculate, and then we can preview that. We can see what that looks like. Okay, so that's looking good. And then what we'll do is we'll do a pocket for our troughs along with our magnets as well. So let's just close out there. So let's select our magnet vectors like so. We're going to go into the pocket toolpath. So we must remember to set our start depth to the depth of cut that it's already at, which is at 0.4. So we're going to put that to 0.4. And then our cut depth is going to be the thickness of your magnet. So you want to measure your thickness of your magnet. In my case, it's a very thin one, 0.037. And then we're going to use a 1/4 inch end mill here, and I'm going to call this one pocket magnet like so. Press calculate, preview that, and that's what that should look like. In which case we want to check that. You might want to actually put an allowance on it to ensure it fits. So let's just go back in there, and we'll just put in a very small value here of negative 0.005 in here. So it's just going to give us a little bit of wiggle room to ensure that our magnet will fit in. Obviously you can do tests here to check like on a piece of scrap material, or just kind of like on the side somewhere over here, to ensure that you get a good fit, and then you can apply that to your actual cutout. So we're going to go ahead and calculate that as that is, and then if I just put that into the solid view, you'll see it's just going to do a little bit of an overcut here. Okay, so then we can close out, or could preview that updated one. You can see it just ever so minutely just kind of made that a little bit bigger. Right then, so that is the magnet. So next up is the actual trough for our marbles to sit inside. So let's take those vectors like so, and we're going to go back into the pocket toolpath. So again, like before, we're going to set our start depth to 0.4. And then our cut depth, I'm actually going to put that to 0.475. Now it's crucial that for both pieces that has the troughs, we need to ensure that we have enough room that our marbles can actually fit inside. So we want to make sure that our depth of cut is suitable for our marbles. So on this side, I'm going to go in at 0.475, and I'll still have a little bit of a gap of material left, so like underneath. And then we'll figure out the ring trough shortly when we come to that sheet. Okay, so I'm just going to use a 1/4 inch end mill here, and we're just going to call this one pocket marble track like so, and then we could go ahead and press calculate, and then we can preview that, and you can see that's what that will look like. So let's just close out there. And finally, to finish all of the toolpaths for this sheet, we're going to take this vector here, and then with that vector, we're going to look at creating a profile toolpath. So we're going to go into the profile toolpath here. We're going to set our cut depth to be Z or Z. We're going to use the select tool to select our tool, in which case we're going to go with that 1/4 inch end mill. We're going to select that. We're going to machine on the outside of those vectors. Well, we're going to add tabs to our toolpath as well. So we'll go the length of 0.5 and a thickness of 0.15. And if we use the edit tabs option, we can specify the number, which we're going to go 3 here. So nice strong 3. Add tabs. We can see what that would look like. If we wanted to, you can move the tabs into different position if you felt that they weren't quite right. So something like that might be okay. And then you can close out. We're just going to look at adding a ramp into our toolpath, and that's just going to ensure that we ramp in rather than plunging in vertically. It's really good for the wear and tear of the actual tool itself, whereby we're going to go in with a smooth ramp, okay, and we're also going to do a lead in. So we're going to have a lead in along with a lead out. So where the start point is, it's actually going to kind of lead in to the start point, and that just ensures that we get a nice like edge quality where the start point is, as the tool is kind of plunging in outside of where it actually meets the start point. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're ramping in on that lead, and then what we could do is give that a name, and we'll call that one profile cutout, and then press calculate, and you can see here, so this is where our lead in and our ramp is. So it's going to lead in from the outside, come in, follow it round, and it's going to lead out. You can see that there. So every time it's plunging in, it's coming in here and it's exiting over here. So let's just go preview what that looks like, and that's that cutout. We've got our tabs holding that in place, and that looks pretty good. Right then, so that's sheet 1. So now what we can do is we could go ahead and switch over to sheet 2. So we can do that by going to sheet 2 over here. That will automatically put us into sheet 2 in terms of our 3D view and our 2D view over here. Okay, so for this sheet, I'm actually working with material that is 3/4 of an inch thick. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take this vector here along with this vector here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a pocket toolpath. So we're going to use a pocket toolpath here. I'm actually going to clear out 0.35, okay? And that will leave me with 0.4 material left over, which is actually what we cut away on the recess on the other sheet. So we should have a nice flush fit when the ring sits on top of the overall game layout. Okay, so here we're going to go with a cut depth of 0.35 here. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch end mill to cut that out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a pocket allowance here of negative 0.05, and that's just so it goes out either way, either of those vectors, just to ensure that when I come to run a profile on these same vectors, I'm not going to get any kind of little strands that could potentially be missed by not offsetting those outwards. So here we're going to call this one pocket recess, like so. Calculate that, and then we can preview that. That's what that will look like. So here I've cut down by 0.35, and so I should have 0.4 left over here. And then so from there, what we're going to do is we're then going to create our recess tracks for the marbles along with the actual magnets as well. So let's just go ahead and press close out here. So now let's take this vector here and this vector here, and then we're going to go into the pocket toolpath. Okay, so we've already cut away 0.35, so we're going to set our start depth here of 0.35. And then our cut depth, we're going to go in 1/4 of an inch. Now, we have to bear in mind the actual diameter of the marble. So in our case, our marble is 0.622. Now on the other sheet, we already cleared away 0.475 on this side. So here we're going to look at doing 0.25, and that's going to give us a total kind of cavity of 0.725, which is plenty enough for our marbles. So you just want to make sure that, you know, you're always checking your cut depths against the actual diameter of the marbles that you're going to be using. Okay, so I'm going to go 0.35, 0.25 there. We're going to use that 1/4 inch end mill, and I'm going to give this a name. We'll call this one pocket marble track, and we'll go ahead and press calculate, and then we can preview that. We can see what that looks like. So that's looking pretty good. Right then, so let's just close out there. Okay, so next up we'll take those magnet vectors. Let's go into the pocket toolpath. So again, similar to what we did just, we're going to set a start depth here of 0.35, as that's what we've already machined down. Cut depth, we're going to go with that, the thickness of our magnet, so 0.037 in this case. We're going to go with that 1/4 inch end mill, and we're going to call this one pocket magnet. And then we'll go ahead and press calculate, and then we'll preview that, and that's that. And again, what I should do is put that allowance in, so negative 0.005 in here, and then go ahead and calculate that so that we're including that offset to just give us a little bit of wiggle room so that our magnet can fit in there. And again, like I said earlier, you want to make sure you do test fits to ensure that you get the right allowance to allow for a good fit for your actual magnets. Right, and so then we can close out here. And last but not least, we're going to do a profile toolpath to cut our ring out. So with those vectors selected, we're going to go into the profile toolpath. We're going to cut on the outside here and then within here. Now I could be considering a change when I actually come to machine this, where I could potentially say it might be easier to pocket inside of here so I don't have any internal tabs to remove, as that could be a little bit of an issue. However, I feel okay that you know, just detabbing a few tabs within this inner circle isn't going to be too bad, but again, something that we could potentially consider. However, I'm just going to go with the profile for now. So here we're going to set a cut depth here of Z, which is going to be 3/4 of an inch. We're going to use a 1/4 inch end mill machining on the outside of our vectors. We're going to add tabs, so let's edit those tabs. Let's put 3 on those like so. Okay, so we've got 3 there, we've got 3 inside. Let's just move that around. We're just going to wiggle that one around as well. And then we'll go ahead and close out and then give this a name. So we'll call this one profile cutout, and then we'll go ahead and press calculate, and then we can preview that. And that's what that will look like. And so in theory, this is then going to sit on top when we flip it over on top of our base. So that's pretty much everything here. So some things for you to take away. Obviously, whatever counters you're going to be using, you need to alter the vectors according to the sizes that you're using, alter the cut depths according to the material thicknesses that you are using. So you just want to make sure that the ring fits nicely flush with the cut depth that you assign for the base shape, okay? And so measure everything twice and hopefully cut once. So at this stage, let's go ahead and save out our toolpaths, and we'll go over to the labs and start machining those. Okay, so we've got this nice piece of beech here, so it's a nice light material, and our other sheet that we're going to be using is going to be a piece of walnut, which we've got this one here. So we're going to have a nice contrast there between the two different materials. So that should give it a nice look for the actual game when it all comes together. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut into the beech to create the base of our game. So we're going to have 3 tools. So we're going to use a V-bit to create the crosshatch, the round bullnose bit to create the little divots, and then we'll test our marbles fit in there nicely. And then we're going to switch to that 1/4 inch where we're going to cut everything else out, and that will be that done. And we'll just check that everything fits in place. Take that off, and then we'll go on to the walnut to cut the ring out, and then we'll see how it all goes. So that's the base done. We've checked that the marbles fit, magnets fit, all is good. So we're just going to take that off, and then we'll do a little bit of a clean up on that, a little bit of a sand. And whilst we're doing that, we'll actually get the walnut on and we'll cut the ring portion. We're just using one tool, so it should be fairly quick. And then take that off, and then we'll do some more finishing. I really like how this has turned out. Love the contrast there. I think it's really nice. One thing that I would change is, rather than do a profile pass for the inside where I had to detab the waste material, I'd actually just do it as a pocket pass. That way you're clearing up the edge, you're going to get a nice smooth edge without having to sand off all of those tabs. So I'm going to change that for you in the file, so the file you'll get is going to be the perfect one. And that's pretty much it. So if you like this video, then give us a thumbs up, and if you've not yet subscribed to our channel, then please hit that subscribe button to get instant updates on the latest videos that we'll be releasing. So thank you so much for watching, and happy making.